Between Bowden and Scalzo, they have finished off the podium a total of 3 times this season. Their impressive consistency has meant they've become our 2 major protagonists in the championship hunt as we get ready for race 1 in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury, and later we'll be joined by Daniel Morad. Joey, welcome back to Road America. What a track.
It is just an absolute fantastic facility that we've got out here just north of Milwaukee. Let's take a look at the track map itself. Just over 4 miles and 14 turns makes up America's National Park of Speed. And since we are getting into race time, a couple key corners that you want to look out for. Turn number 1 is always going to be very, very busy as we start these races 2 by 2. But look towards turn number 5, our biggest break zone on the racetrack. That provides great passing opportunities. The Carousel and the Kink, the 2 most identifiable corners here at Road America, need high speed and high commitment as it feeds you down into turn number 12, Canada Corner. A great passing opportunity, but it is the lowest point on the racetrack. From there, you climb up through the hill through turn 14, and that's a lap at Road America.
And up on the pole today, it's going to be Danny Deshelski, who is ahead of Carl Stout. That should be a fun battle to carry on between those two on the front row. Matt Siegel starts from 3rd as Riley Giacomazzi is in 4th today. Then you've got Tony Melito in the 5th position. And to the outside of that 3rd row, it's going to be Brandon Hankins, once again jumping over from the USA West Series. After that, we have Pratt starting in 7th place on the inside of the 4th row. Alex sees Joel Johnson starting to his outside in 8th. Dave Musil Jr. will be in P9, and then it is Nick Schaefer, Joey, starting in 10th.
And then comes a whole lot more cars. Mark Bowden in 11th. Is going to be lined up next to Blake McGovern in 12th place. On the next row in 13th is Gafarov driving that number 200 car. Elaine Scalzo is going to be rolling off from 14th place overall. Todd Treffert 15th with Frank Vitiello lined up next to him in 16th. Over in 17th place is going to be Keith McGovern lined up with Bill Fennick next to him, rolling off in 18th. In 19th is Dave Musil, and then in 20th is Dan Ammon.
21st will go to Matt Dusek. He's got Scott Neal to keep him company on row 11. Dan Drowan starts in 23rd, followed by Greg Shermer in the 24th position. Jens Hansen causing the red flag means that he's going to be starting from 25th. Jeff Hinkle will be 26th. Then it is Reggie Tartaglione in the 27th spot. 28th goes to Matt Smith and Tillman Schmid rounding out our field of cars. As I mentioned earlier, we are joined by a very special guest. Daniel Morad is with us. Daniel, welcome up to the booth. Looking forward to see your insights on these cars.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and also nice to be alongside you. I know you've done a few races for me on the sim, so it's cool to be up here with you.
Interesting how it all comes full circle. I know you've been running over on the endurance side, so you have been in these cup cars. What do you think are some of the big keys around a track like Road America in this vehicle?
Well, Road America is the longest circuit on the schedule, so right up there with Circuit of the Americas, so it's really important to just be consistent. There's so many corners, so one mistake can really be detrimental to your lap. So just about being clean, being really smooth, and this track in particular, one thing that's very odd about this circuit is you have to really be intentional with the way you brake. You'll see a lot of guys getting loose on corner entry in through the apex because of the extra trail braking. So you're going to see guys being really loose fighting these cars, especially midway through the race when the tires start to go off their peak. It's going to start to get a bit tricky.
And on screen, we can see that championship situation I mentioned in the Cup Masters. Like I said, 3 times over the course of the entire season that Bowden and Scalzo have not finished on the podium. Otherwise, they have been up in those top 3. Meanwhile, over in the Pro-Ams, Carl Stout is having basically his run of the series. He's only lost 1 race so far. Matt Siegel trying his best to claw him back in, but he's going to have to start doing a lot very soon. Otherwise, mathematically, Carl will have wrapped it up. He could actually even do that this weekend. As we take a look at them coming around on their second pace lap, Joey, and then we go racing.
we got a shot of the troublesome turn number 6. And, you know, Daniel, you've got more laps than anybody in this commentary booth here at Road America. What makes turn 6 so gosh dang tricky?
Well, turn 6 is one of the toughest corners, I would say, on any schedule, because what happens at turn 6 is you go uphill over a crest and you end up losing the contact patch on the tires. So you actually have less grip than normal. And when you think about racing and cars in particular, the only thing connecting your car to the road are the tires. And if they're flying in the air, then you have no grip. So it is particularly tricky to manage the pitch of the car and the balance. But yeah, it is, even for myself, it is very difficult to get that right timing on brake release to get the front down back on the ground so you can have some front end grip.
You can see them start to go 2 by 2 now as they come down towards Canada Corner. This is the biggest field of the weekend that we've got. The GT3 Cup Series pretty much always brings out a lot of attendance, and that means for more excitement on track, especially considering you have those two different classes and they are going to be intermingled. Joel Johnson, though, I think a bit of a surprise, Joey, managing to snatch that pole from our two protagonists.
We were really focused on that championship battle between Elaine Scalzo and Mark Bowden when we were talking about that qualifying session. And you're right, Joel Johnson in that 227 was the one who came up and stole away that Masters class pole position. We're going to see if the race is a different story than qualifying. But right now, the speed, pace, and advantage goes to the 227.
And plus, he's got a buffer of a couple of those Pro-Am cars in between himself and Mark Bowden. So that could be a huge help if he wants to take home the win. Coming up over the crest, under the bridge, up to the flag stand. They wait patiently for the green, and there it is. Green flag is out. We go racing at Road America. Danny Dashelski with an excellent start, but so does Matt Siegel. Look at that bright yellow car. He's to the inside of Carl Stout. Can he take second away into the first corner? Could be important over the course of this race. No, he backs out of it.
It is very busy. Look at this, 30 GT3 Cup cars streaming through Road America Turn 1, and now the drive down into turn number 3. Danny Dashelski in that orange 252 leads the way. However, Carl Stout firmly in the slipstream. He's going to look for a move down towards turn number 5.
Action corner is going to be turn 5, especially here on the first lap as they enter into the braking, one of the heaviest braking zones that they have over the course of the circuit. And as they come down into the corner, a tiny peak from Carl Stout, but can't quite get there. A battle between Alex Pratt and I think that's Brandon Hankins there for that 6th position.
We're coming up the hill to that turn 6 that we just got all of that cool information about, and we're going to see, look at the cars slip sliding for grip. This is the 282 that we are chasing now through turn number 7. Got to roll the speed, use all of that exit curb, and now it's a tricky downhill brake zone.
I'm a little bit surprised at how single file it has gotten this early out here, Daniel. It looks like the drivers are trying to play patient.
Yeah, just as you say that, we see a car going wide in turn 8, and it's extremely tricky. If you go offline in turn 8, there's absolutely no grip here at Road America, especially if you go wide on those rumble curbs.
Watching on board from Hankins. He at least got a little bit of relief between his races. The poor Cayman drivers that did the USA West Series had to jump over immediately to their series as soon as that race was done. Down into Canada Corner. Bit of a gap actually forming between Stout and Dashelski.
Oh, and that was a big slide. Oh, and there's a car around at Canada Corner. Maybe contact with the 200 as well, trying to take avoiding action, and one car is now drivers left into the tire wall.
Was that, that's the 227. That's Joel Johnson, I think.
So that is the 227, I can confirm.
Oh my goodness. So he's gone from pole to last on the field. We may have a car stuck in the barrier as they have not been able to pull themselves out yet. That's the 200 of Gafarov.
That's what I see as well. There were several cars that were just really deep into Canada Corner, maybe a little bit out of shape, and I think it was more an accordion effect than anything. It wasn't those first couple cars that actually spun around. It was the cars a little bit further back.
Unfortunate when they're all packed up like this that you can get caught up in other people's messes. Still calm up at the front. Riley Giacomazzi working on Matt Siegel. Riley's in the dark green machine, the number 296, getting ever closer to the back of the 267. Sounds like it's a flat tire for Joel Johnson, unfortunately, and all of that action. Easy to get that when you wind up going off into the runoff.
And we are still, call it green flag racing. That car is still in the tires at Canada Corner, so I can only imagine what will be coming up here momentarily.
Probably a safety car so that they can go and get that car retrieved. We'll see here as we come down the hill following from the drone behind Matt Siegel. Still hasn't been thrown, and now we have the full course yellow. So we will slow up. And the thing that always I find interesting about this series here, Daniel, is when we have full course yellows, it eats up a lot of time, so a sprint becomes a super sprint.
Yeah, let's hope they can clean this up quickly. It's turn 12, so it's near the end of the lap. They can probably recover this car quickly, and it doesn't look like there's too much damage, so it might just be a fact of just pulling this car out and bringing it back to the pits.
I think my one worry, I totally agree with you. I just think that the only reason potentially why the car made it all the way over to the tires is maybe a little bit of steering damage on that front left, so he couldn't actually make it around the corner. But you're right, the access roads are right there, and hopefully, I didn't see any other debris. Did you guys see any other debris? It just simply looked like those two cars.
I didn't see anything, and I can tell you that the safety crews are already there. We'll see them in a second as we ride on board with the 231 of Musil, and there you go. Yeah, I didn't spot any before when we had any of the wider angles, but unfortunate that at least two cars were compromised, one of which may already be out of this race. One that's probably happy about it is Jens Hansen, who's trying to climb back up the order. He's already up to 19th place after starting this in 25th overall. So making good use of the calamity there on lap 1.
And it also kind of gives another little breathe into a restart for Carl Stout, because you had just made the comment on lap number 2. We were pretty surprised at how fast Danny Deshelski had already ran away.
Yeah, he's going to want to try and do that again. 227 retiring from the pole to essentially last in class, only with Gaffarov. No, Gaffarov's in Pro-Am. So, yeah, that's going to be it for Joel Johnson. He will not get to complete more than one lap and has to wind up dead last on the field. He is going to be very frustrated with that, which has kind of unfortunately been a trend with this season. He's usually very, very fast, but things seem to go awry.
That's unfortunate for Joel, because being part of the JDX crew and the endurance side of things, I get to see kind of behind the scenes of what's going on. And I know he's had a tough start to the weekend, and they did a really good job recovering through the practice session and qualifying. And he did a fantastic job with that lap to put the car on pole in class. So it is, I'm sure, very frustrating for him to climb back in there and just drive the car back to the trailer.
The good news is he will have one more race this weekend in Sprint Challenge, so he can get back out there and try again. But things have just gone south very quickly for the 227 driver. So now we slow up while we wait for recovery to happen with Gaffarov. Car is still there. I wonder if the driver might be a little bit stuck, if the barrier is up against the door potentially here.
I think yes, potentially, but you should still be able to pull the car out. It looks like they're bringing the flatbed out, so evidently the driver probably feels like the car is too damaged to actually drive it back. But instead of focusing on that, since we got you in the booth here, Daniel, we talked about turn 6 and it being really tricky, but on the first lap of the race, everybody's so packed together. You're trying to get the run through the kink. What makes that Canada corner so tricky going into it at such a high speed?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, first lap of the race, cold tires, it makes it even more tricky to get the car stopped. Canada corner is one of the highest speed sections on the track, and it isn't easy at all. It's very narrow, a lot more narrow than you think. When you do the track walk, you're just like, wow. It feels wider, like especially on the sim when you drive it, it feels a lot wider than when you're actually here in real life. And when you are doing almost 260 kph, I'm going to use kilometers per hour. I'm sorry to all the Americans.
It's about 160. We've been watching it over here in Big Macs.
Yeah. What the heck is a kilometer? But yeah, I mean, it's very tricky. It's tricky to stop the car. The technique, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I've been driving all weekend here, and I'm using a technique that I typically wouldn't have used. So here we go. This is the incident here. Oh, it just collects him. It looks like his tracking rod, steering rod just broke there. And also I can see Joel Johnson. I'm not sure if it's just jumping over that curb, if it's the issue, or if he's actually broken something.
And also what I see is, unfortunately, I think the 227 just gets in a little bit too deep there. Is that what you see?
See what I was saying about losing the car on corner entry? It's very tricky. For some reason, I don't know if it's the surface. This track has evolved as well. And if you take a look around, I went for a track walk yesterday just to kind of check the surface out, and it is very rough on the line. It seems like the surface itself is breaking apart. So depending on where you're driving on the track, he may have just gone onto a really slippery part of the circuit, and with the cold tires, if you trail a little bit too much brake, the rear end can just step out that easy.
Now, one thing that I had noticed on those replays that we hadn't caught at the time, he gets into Joel Johnson gets into the back of another car, and that was Mark Bowden. So Bowden had passed him for the Masters lead over the course of that lap. Let's hope for Bowden's sake that he didn't get too much damage from that touch that he had in that incident.
I don't think so, and maybe you can kind of provide some secondary input on that. It didn't seem like that front bumper to rear bumper was going to necessarily cause anything, especially on that car in front, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, normally with the Porsche Cup cars, it's so fragile in the front because you have a lot of the radiators and cooling systems in the front bumper of the car, so it's incredibly important not to hit anybody. If you get hit on the rear, it's pretty strong. You have the exhaust back there, but for the most part, there's not a lot of important components on the backside of the vehicle. So especially on the front end, you have to be really deliberate and certain. If you're going to stick your nose in, you have to make it count.
So Bowden holds on to that class lead, by the way. Scalzo sits in second behind him. So our two championship rivals are 1 and 2 right now, which should be fun to watch between the pair of them. Dushelski remaining in the lead, of course, up on those Pro-Ams. Now, Carl Stout being in second won't mean a whole lot, honestly, on that front. If he just keeps bringing home those top finishes, he's probably going to just claim the championship with ease. Siegel really needs to not only win, but he needs Carl to have some seriously bad luck on the remainder of the season. Dushelski came in halfway through the season, so he's not even thinking about that. He is all wins.
Let's talk about a little bit of the performance that we saw in qualifying and how it could translate into the race here, because we were talking about just the gap between Dushelski and Stout. Typically, we've seen those two drivers a little bit closer matched in terms of their qualifying times. Now, if we go back, I think it's only maybe a couple tenths between the two in terms of those efforts earlier today. But it certainly seems like this weekend the edge has gone to the 252 in terms of the overall performance.
I've noticed that as well. And honestly, even in practice, I believe it was Matt Siegel who was up at the top instead of Carl Stout. So not exactly sure if maybe this is not suiting Carl as well, or if there's other factors. We have to remember, this is his first time coming over to North America to compete at a lot of these tracks. So as a young driver, he's still learning what a lot of these others may have had plenty of experience in.
He also wasn't out on track, at least not the whole day on the Wednesday test. So he does have, I would say, limited experience, and just the nature of this circuit, it seems like it drives different than any other circuit on the schedule. At least from my experience so far, I've only just gone back into the Cup car starting this year. It's been 10 years since I've driven Cup. So it's been cool to come back. But safety car lights are out now, and we're going to get back racing. We'll see if Carl can actually put a fight towards Danny here on the restart. This will probably be his best opportunity.
This is what we love to see, getting going racing again with 23 minutes, still plenty of time. There was a bit of a gap, though, there in the midst of the field. They aren't supposed to leave too big of a gap, so they'll want them to start to pack up a little better here.
And the only reason why I point that out is because it can cause potential accordion effects as you try to regather and regroup yourself into the field. Thankfully, they've got enough racetrack here to really sort themselves out for a nice single file restart. And I have a feeling we're going to get on the gas a whole lot sooner, already on it coming out of turn 14.
Yeah, the restart area is a lot sooner. It is up to the leader to decide when they go. I think Dushelski figured earlier is better, but that means a lot more slipstream down the main straight. Carl Stout Stout starting to draw him in once again. Looks around the outside. He doesn't have to worry about Siegel this time into the first corner, but he isn't able to get side by side. He's right on the rear bumper, though.
He looked underneath the rear wing of the 252, and look at Siegel flashing the lights there in third place. Deshelski is under much more pressure on this restart than our initial green flag.
Certainly looking like a different complexion to what we saw before as they fly down the Moraine sweep. They're all looking towards turn 5. Deshelski going to try to be the latest of the late breakers without going too deep into the corner. And as they hit their markers, it looks like he holds on to it for now. But once again, in the middle of the corners, and Scalzo is all the way off. He's into the gravel. Can he keep it moving to keep from getting stuck? He escapes.
Nicely done from the driver of the 222 to not get stuck there, but talk about the championship implications. We were counting on Elaine Scalzo duking it out with Mark Bowden, and now he's buried in terms of track position.
Wow, yeah, big implications there. Is a little bit deep. Carl Stout looking maybe out of sorts. Matt Siegel almost had an opportunity.
And turn 8 is one of those corners that, and then we got contact further back. There's going to be a car stuck in the gravel. I'm not sure which car numbers those are, but there was definitely front to rear contact between those cars trying to get down to the inside of that downhill brake zone in turn 8.
They do look to be stuck. I can tell you that the 251 is one of those that is out there off to the side, not making out who the other one. So Dusek in the orange machine that is stuck. It says spun at turn 8 and continued, but I have to disagree on that point because I think that car still looks stationary to me.
And I potentially see the 298 of Dan Drowan. It might be the other car involved, and a full course yellow. And what could be even more heartbreaking is that if it is the 251 and the 298, they're both under the same CHR tent.
So that's going to be uncomfortable post-race. And now it looks like finally we do get the 251 moving, so Dusek hopefully can drive it home from here. We thought we were going to get more racing in, but barely half a lap, and suddenly it has to go back to yellow.
So if it went from a sprint to a super sprint, what are we at now? Are we at an ultra sprint?
I think
a mega sprint?
I think there's only one way to go. It's a hyper sprint.
Oh, okay,
there we go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's man, it's going to be tough, especially if you are out of position. I said Jens Hansen would be happy about it earlier because it would bunch things up for him. Now he's probably thinking, no, I need this to stay green, guys. I can't make up positions.
I think what happens when you have a yellow and it's a sprint race, the nerves build, you start getting anxious, time's running out. If you're back in the pack, you're starting to, maybe try to do moves that you wouldn't necessarily do if you had more time. So time is of the essence here, and some of the moves, until we see the replay, we don't really know exactly what happened. It could just be that someone lost the rear and there was avoiding action, but desperation definitely seems like it's creeping in.
Both of them wound up in those heavy braking zones with two cars getting involved. In both cases, one car managing to escape, the other wound up stationary off in the kitty litter. And you're pointing out maybe some right front damage here, Joey?
That's kind of what I see. I know the shot's a little bit far away, so you can't be exact with it, but it certainly seems like the right front does look different than the left front.
Well, considering he was about to pick up a part of the car, I'd say you're probably right, as the safety worker was inspecting it himself.
And typically when you have right front damage going into a left-hand corner, you can kind of draw conclusions, especially with left rear damage on the other car.
The puzzle pieces fit.
Yeah, that's one thing. We were talking about. We were talking a lot about the idiosyncrasies of learning to do commentary, and you do some sleuthing in this, Daniel.
From that
break point was optional at that point.
Yeah, from that point, it just seemed like Drowan. So watch the second place car. Carl Stout gets out of shape. That's what drew our eyes. But watch much further back now, entering turn number 8. There's going to be a car down to the inside of everybody. And there is just no way that car was making any sort of apex, and you gotta feel for Dusek.
So, yeah, that was Drowan, who was coming from a long ways back, may have either missed his braking point. There could have been something that broke in the car. We don't know. So there's any number of things. Whatever the case, you could tell from an early stage that car was heading towards the scene of an accident.
You definitely don't want to draw conclusions, but Myself personally, I do a lot of coaching with amateur drivers, and one thing I do experience is that some of these guys, I mean, you have to remember, they're not professional drivers, especially deeper in the pack. Everyone's fighting in their own category, and most of these guys are new to racing. So when you have so much going on around you, it's very easy to forget or get caught up in where you are and get fixated on a specific target and actually lose track of your break point. I mean, it happens to me sometimes. If I'm engaged in a really tough battle and I'm fighting somebody beside me, like I'll get lucky just based on pure luck and reaction that I'll catch the break point. But some of these guys may just go a little too late, and when you're offline and you miss the break point a little bit, it can get out of hand really quickly.
And I want to kind of compound on top of that, too. So that's just the brake marker and going into turn 8. We're forgetting how tricky turn 7 is and what happens if a car runs way out wide, drivers left, potentially off of the racetrack. Now, these GT3 Cup cars are amazing with pad knockback. It's pretty much virtually eliminated, but it still potentially can creep into the car if you go for a wild ride the corner before.
You're absolutely right. I mean, this track in particular, especially with the wider extension, they have this, what do you call it, like the brick you would call it?
What did you call it?
I've heard it called grasscrete.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm having that installed in my backyard right now. The grasscrete, with that being laid down here, it just opens up the circuit. So a lot of the corners actually change profile. So one thing we haven't talked about is just how much different turn 7 drives, how much different turn 14 drives. Even the kink, you'll see a lot less of the mistakes happening in the kink because you have the grasscrete there on the exit, whereas before it was just purely dirt if you go a little bit wide and off the curb. But pad knockback, you're completely right. I mean, I've experienced it through the testing that we've done so far leading up to the endurance race. If you do run over the curbs and you go right to the grasscrete, you do have to tap the brakes a little bit to get the pads back against the rotors. If you don't do that, you have a long pedal. So that very well could be what happened there with that incident.
So that's 2 investigations now happening for both incidents that we've seen out on track. Scalzo, definitely. I just realized we saw him in shot. He's not going to be happy about this yellow because he's now has even less time to try and gain back what he lost through that moment here at turn 5. And I do want to talk about, since you had mentioned the professional side, we have to recall that this is the bottom rung on the ladder system that Porsche has built. This is essentially their introduction to a lot of drivers that want to take that step up to their first professional series that they are racing, jumping up from club racing. So like you said, you have some people who are a little bit green, but what this does is this is an educational series. This helps teach a lot of these drivers of the ways to go racing, the ins and outs, how to avoid these various pitfalls. So sometimes we will see some situations that will wind up being harsh lessons.
Yeah, and it's a great series. It's my first time actually attending this year. I haven't attended the Sprint Challenge weekends in the past, but it's an amazing starting point for someone who's coming from a PCA event, maybe has a GT3 RS that they track, maybe they step into a Cayman or a GT3 Cup car. It's an amazing platform, and it is a really high level. At the end of the day, it's Porsche that's running the show, and it's a really high level program. Combine that with the endurance element of it, where some of these amateur drivers can hire professional drivers to drive alongside them. They just escalate the learning process. I know for me personally, I'm driving with Roberto Tutino, and one of my friends actually who I've been sim racing with, he's part of my sim racing team, the Moradness M Squad. And this year he asked if, my schedule was not too busy to start the year. He's like, hey, you want to race this thing with me? And it just goes to show how cool of an opportunity it is for these amateur drivers to just pick up a pro, learn, and honestly, it's just a fun time overall.
Not quite as fun for Dan right now from what we're seeing. But speaking of a program bringing drivers in, there we go. It's also a karting weekend out here at Road America, so we have some youngsters that are getting in on the bottom level, which is, I guess, another interesting point that I can definitely talk to you two about. This used to be the way that a lot of drivers got into racing. Now, since you mentioned sim racing, that is very much becoming another step that people can take to work their way into motorsport.
To be honest, I think if I was to start again today, sim racing is how I would do my path to being a professional driver. It's a lot cheaper. You have more opportunity, I feel. Karting is getting quite expensive, but at the end of the day, there's pros and cons to both. Sim racing, you don't have consequences. In karting, you do have real life consequences. You have fear, you have things like that to overcome. But in sim racing, I think it's a lot more in line with the way the car feels in real life. It's a lot easier to adapt and transition over to a real car. Some of the fundamentals and the principles of driving a car on the sim will translate over. You see guys like Chris Lullum who have transitioned from sim to real life, and he's doing a fantastic job.
We just saw that Elaine Scalzo was coming into pit lane. I hope there is not more wrong with the car. I don't remember seeing any contact when he went wide at turn 5. Do you guys?
No, I just remember the wild ride through the gravel. Everybody took avoiding action in terms of him getting through turn number 5. So I'm not sure what's happened there. The other thing to kind of consider, Joe, is that if he was already at the back of the pack, might as well let the team look over the car, maybe scrape out any gravel that's on the front bumper or anything like that, and then send them back out. But that's just a potential of why he brought it down.
And I've been watching them down on pit lane because they're a little ways in front of us. And yeah, they're kind of underneath the car. They're looking at something. They're probably cleaning some things there. We get pictures of it now.
Yeah, he
replacing the splitter.
He did go through the grass on the exit of turn 5, and it looks like he just might have just pulled that splitter off. It is very important. That splitter, even though it's a thin piece of plastic that runs on the bottom edge of that bumper, it's insane how much performance you can lose if you actually lose that piece of plastic. It could be about 2 to 3 seconds per lap, especially around Road America with all the high-speed corners. You can lose a lot of front-end performance.
Credit to that pit crew. They got that thing reattached pretty darn quickly. We have to remember, pit stops are not really a thing in this series. So for them to be out there, get everything all affixed and on his way in just, about a minute? That's pretty darn good.
I've been trying to keep track of our pace lap times, right? And we're right about 4 minutes per lap. So we'll have to keep an eye on if we've got this turn 8 completely cleared up. No, I still see safety vehicles down there retrieving that Drowan car. So I would assume at least one more under this full course yellow, which is going to put us, call it about 6 minutes or so, maybe under that when we actually go back green flag.
It's going to be very tight on timing. And what's ironic in all of this, I probably would have expected this tomorrow, Joey, because we're predicting a lot of rain. I figured that would be the race where we see a lot of yellows. But hopefully they're getting it out of the way today, and we'll stay green tomorrow in the wet.
And there has been races that it has been a little bit messier than others in the GT3 Cups. However, there's been immensely competitive races as well. I think back to Coda when we saw Dyshelski, Stout, Siegel, Riley. They were all duking it out side by side, and this is actually what I love to see. I was worried we were still safety car lights on, but it shows lights out. We should be getting the green flag this time.
Yes, I'm looking back at our camera over on turn 8, and it is clear over there. So excellent work once again to the safety crews here at Road America for all the hard work behind the scenes. And as the cars go single file, last time Danny went early. Does he now choose to go a little bit later? It is up to him on where he wants to take off once that safety car is in.
Looks like he didn't really leave too big of a gap to the safety car ahead, and this is going to be a bit of an issue. The one thing with the safety car restart is you want to be unpredictable. It looks like he got a similar jump, but the slipstream is there, and Stout is there behind him. It's going to be tough into turn 1.
Alex Pratt looking like he might have a good chance on Tony Melito. And behind him, I think that's Nick Schaefer with Dave Musial Jr. and Mark Bowden hot on his heels. Mark has to worry about Keith McGovern, who is trying to take that lead away from him. And in fact, I think that's a big look up the inside. No, excuse me, that is Alex Pratt, who is still in that battle with Melito, similarly colored cars.
And he certainly had a big lunge going into turn number 3. Thankfully was able to back out of it at the very last moment. So no contact there between himself and Melito. Now it's the drive down to turn number 5. And I mean, it is just rinse and repeat right now for Dyshelski. He did an excellent job on those first couple of starts. Riley Giacomazzi looking to get to the inside of Siegel here in turn number 6. They're door-to-door, fender to fender. He's going to squeeze them out to the outside. They're still next to each other approaching turn number 7.
Just enough room given, and same deal with the other way around as the two continue to bang doors down towards turn 8. Riley has the inside. Matt has to give way.
An excellent move from Riley Giacomazzi to leave room at the apex of turn number 7 for his competitor, and then simply outbrake him going down the hill. And now Siegel actually slips up going through the carousel. He's actually going to be under threat again.
I think this one is not over. We're on board with Hankins, who sees all this action in front of him, hoping he can get a piece of it. It is still Dyshelski leading up at the front of the Pro-Ams. Now as we watch Siegel, a little bit of something just kicked off there along the back straight.
Definitely saw some debris, drivers left, and I think maybe even a little bit of a dust cloud further back in the pack as well. Something we didn't really mention, these are still relatively cold tires. It is up to the drivers to maintain them during that safety car period, so they're ready to fire off once we got under green flag conditions.
You're right. They've literally spent more under yellow than green, so no doubt those tires are going to be awful temperature-wise at this stage. Matt Siegel, he wants it back off Giacomazzi, seeing if he could get onto the podium, forcing him to go defensive, coming down into turn 1, and although he gets close, he doesn't quite get side by side.
No, but he was literally pushing him through the apex. It seemed like the flash of the lights from Siegel. Feels like he's got a little bit more pace than that green machine directly in front of him, and now he's going to sit there right in the toe, see if he can get that run down into the brake zone.
I thought he'd have a good over-under there coming through turn 3 as more dirt is being thrown up in front of our camera. Someone else had some drama coming off of the third corner. Down to the inside. Matt Siegel does get a good run. He's good on the brakes. Giacomazzi tries to pull the same move as last time and get underneath him. Matt is wise to it. He covers down to turn 6 and blocks the apex.
I thought Riley was going to get creative there, but it's so tough to hang around the outside of turn number 6. We heard Daniel talk about how it gets so unweighted, so light up there at the crest, and if you're too far out, sometimes you just can't bring the car back in.
But Daniel, look at what this has done. Suddenly, Melito and Pratt are right with them. It's gone from a 2-car fight to 4.
Yeah, it's complete chaos what happened there, and it is tough when you go a bit deep into turn 5. You just completely open the inside for someone to go into turn 6 on your inside, and it's next to impossible to hold anyone off going around the outside of turn 6 with the fact that you're going up over a crest, losing grip, and being on the outside. And, with turn 7 being a right-hand turn very fast, I'm surprised they didn't have any contact there. They did a really good job to get through there side by side. Actually, one thing there, we talked about the debris. It looks like a splitter. Very common for splitters to come off down that back straight towards Canada Corner, because if you drop a wheel on the exit of the kink, the splitter could be dislodged with the high-speed turbulence. The splitter could just get knocked off and explode basically on that back straight.
We had an interesting message from Race Control, 267 behind the 296. They're not in that order right now. That is Siegel being ordered to give the position back to Giacomazzi.
It could just be because of the move in defense on the exit of turn 5. It looks like he squeezed over on him once he made that move. Most likely what race control is ordered here.
Looks like he's allowed him through. Boy, was it tight, Joey. He did a good job keeping Pratt from being able to make a second pass on him.
Well, I think Siegel is saying, okay, I have to give it back. Well, guess what? I just did this move once. I can do it again. Let's line him up right here, although he is about a car length further back than prior.
We're getting less of the action, but more at the same time with this shorter race that we've got. Everybody is in a hurry to make something happen. All this battling for third place is really causing these cars to back off of Dyshelski and Stout. And Joey, you saw the same flapping of the hood that we saw earlier in a previous race.
Yeah, and you see Dyshelski with a handful of counter steer up and over the exit of turn number 6, and now Siegel, to your point, is actually under threat from Alex Pratt. We did see a little bit of that hood flutter. I don't think it's going to affect the performance of the car too much, but Daniel, inside the car, you can definitely feel the air and what it's doing to the hood.
Oh, definitely. And one thing, what's happening to that hood is just the turbulent air. There's dirty air coming off the car in front. So as they settle down, when the tires get up to temperature, it becomes more and more difficult to actually stay behind the car in front of you, especially as we go through the carousel, through Canada Corner. Some of these high-speed parts of the track, it's very, very difficult to follow. So you can see just the fact that Giacomazzi pulls away there through the kink. We'll see if Siegel can close in through the brake zone of Canada Corner.
Going to be 2 laps to go at the line. Opportunities are scant here today. Alex Pratt still working on Matt Siegel. You said Matt's done it once. He thinks he can do it again. Well, it hasn't happened quite yet. Riley seems pretty locked into that third.
And I think we should be getting 2 laps to go here. We're doing lap times in the 2:10s, and we're just under 2 minutes, but we, of course, have to get that +1 lap once the clock runs out.
Yeah, the longer he spends behind, the more opportunity it gives for Giacomazzi to figure out where he's strong, where he's weak, and he'll actually be able to create a plan and execute that. He'll know how to defend, where to go on throttle. You start to settle down, right? When you catch someone and you're in a battle, the nerves are high, you're anxious. So it's a lot easier to make a mistake here. It looks like he's settling down. We'll see if he can stretch out. But Matt did qualify ahead, so he should have the pace. This is going to be pretty interesting for the rest of the race.
And kind of to your point, I have always thought that when you catch a car, the best pass is immediately. The sooner you make the move, the more efficient you're going to get by them. The longer you sit behind them, like you said, you almost kind of fall into that pitfall of a rhythm of following the car.
It's not just the rhythm for you, but it's also the rhythm for the car in front. They end up learning where you drive, where you're strong, and they can counteract that. So my rule of thumb is exactly that. You catch a car, you pass a car immediately. And if you don't, it becomes increasingly more difficult to overtake.
Siegel with a big slide out of turn 6. Certainly feeling it a bit with all that he's put these tires through, as some dirt as well being kicked up by Pratt as they go nose to tail down through turn 8. They're starting to pull away from Tony Melito. That's at least a small crumb of comfort, as at least one less car looks to be involved, but they're only going to have 1 lap to try and sort out who gets the final step on the podium.
I have to chuckle to myself a little bit because it's almost turned into a qualifying session of a hyper sprint of about 5 laps, but you're actually racing each other for the track position. I mean, I look over at timing and scoring. Deshelski's still putting down purple, just setting fast laps like the tires are all good.
And if he manages to bring this home, this could be Deshelski's first win of the season, believe it or not. Despite his speed, the luck has just not gone his way up to this point. Like I said, typically Matt Siegel has been the one to pick up the pieces.
Is the run coming out of turn number 14. I look up at the start-finish stand, and we've got the white flag for Danny Deshelski. He's got 14 turns remaining to collect a checkered one.
With a handy 2.5-second gap. When you say you've got a 2.5-second gap over Carl Stout, you'll take it, as he is so hard to outpace in this Cup car. There you can see, look at how big that gap looks, actually.
It is big, and it's growing, and I do love the liveries on both of these cars, clearly identifiable, and I do want to give a shout-out to Carl's car, that Racing for Children's livery that they've got on that white and green car. I know it's got a special purpose.
Exactly. It's a charity they've been promoting all season long. He's been very proud to get to represent it for the Kelly Moss team over here in Sprint Challenge. But in the meantime, Danny Deshelski, half a lap through here on his way to potential first win.
Just got to keep it calm, cool, and collected, and don't change anything, right? As soon as you tell a racing car driver to change something, you're introducing a variable into their lap time, and can they handle that variable? These guys at the front, sure, they can handle all the weight on their shoulders, but you want to keep things consistent, keep doing the same thing, and you'll get to the end.
Very young driver as well, early in his career, but with a lot of promise, pretty much on it from the word go. He's coming out of the carousel now at this stage. We haven't talked about it a lot, but Bowden continues to lead the Masters class. We've had so much action happening up at the front of the field in the Pro-Ams.
Well, and to go with that, I mean, that's going to really extend that points championship lead. I've got to scroll down to find Elaine Scalzo to see if he has made up any ground. He's currently sitting 10th in Masters.
This will be Scalzo's third time to finish off of the podium, whereas Mark Bowden has only finished off the podium once. So this is going to hurt on him trying to claw that back. But it's not going to hurt at all for Danny Dashelski. In fact, it's going to be quite sweet as that bright orange and black car comes up the hill. And it took him a minute in 2026, but he is now a winner in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Series.
Fantastic performance from Danny. Carl Stout's going to cross the line in what is second place. Riley Giacomazzi is going to finish third in the Pro-Ams, and now we wait for Mark Bowden. He is going to be our winner in the Masters class in that 246 for Fall Line Motorsports. I do see that Keith McGovern crossed the line in second, and Todd Treffert is going to round out that Masters podium. And before we get to our official results, Daniel, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us here in the booth. I hope you had fun up here as well.
It was a lot of fun. I want to give a huge shout out to my boy JT, my mechanic, our lead mechanic on the car. He found out I was going to go on the broadcast, and he's like, "Yeah, you have to give me a shout out." So this is me fulfilling my duty. JT, the best.
Well, and not only that, but before we get to them real fast, you know, if people want to join you on the sim side of things, if they can't get out here to the real racetrack, how do they get a hold of you? How do they join the Moradna squad? How do they go and race with you?
Well, you don't join the Moradna squad. We select you to join. No, I'm kidding. But ultimately, we have a Discord community. You know, my mission here, obviously, I want to win races and do the best job I can as a professional, but I understand how privileged I am as a professional racing driver, and I would love to share my world with people that don't have the opportunity or are not as privileged to have this opportunity to race cars or to even understand or feel what a race car is like. We have a Discord community. You can join there. Hit me up on any social platform. Usually try to answer everything. YouTube, got a lot of helpful information, videos to help you on the sim, real life stuff. So we also have a YouTube series that we're covering the Porsche Endurance Challenge with. So full series. It's kind of a behind the scenes vlog. It's actually really, really interesting and should have more eyeballs on it. It's awesome. So yeah, hopefully we can do some good things this weekend as well. Looking for another win. We're currently tied for first in the points, so let's see what we can do.
I'll see you out there on the racetrack, and I won't get in your way in the endurance race. How about that?
I'm sure you'll be flying.
Well, let's go through our official results. And this is our Pro-Am class. Danny Dashelski taking the win out there. Carl Stout is going to finish in second place with Riley Giacomazzi in what is third, rounding out the podium. Matt Siegel going to finish fourth in class. Alex Pratt fifth. Tony Melito finishing sixth. Brandon Hankins seventh. David Musial Jr. in 8th, Nick Schaefer in 9th. Jens Hansen is going to round out the top 10, and then Blake McGovern will finish 11th in the Pro-Am class, and unfortunately for Goffarov, had the incident early on. He's going to finish in 12th. It's going to bring us over to our GT3 Cup Masters class, won by Mark Bowden. He was our championship points leader coming into today. Even though it was very close, he was able to capitalize with the win. Keith McGovern is going to finish in second. Todd Treffert in third. That's rounding out our Masters podium. Then Bill Fennick is going to finish fourth. David Musial in fifth. Frank Vitiello in sixth. Dan Ammon in seventh. Scott Neal finishing in eighth. Greg Shermer in ninth, and Elaine Scalzo rounds out our top 10 in Masters. We still have a handful more that competed today. Hinkle will finish in 11th, Tartaglione 12th, Smith in 13th, and then unfortunately for Dusek, Drowan, and Johnson, they did not finish today's race. And as we can already see, Danny Dashelski is climbing out of that bright orange 252. He is our overall winner. Joe Peak is going to be joining him momentarily for some post-race interviews down there in Victory Lane. And I mean, look at Danny. I don't think that he has got a bead of sweat on him right now. And it certainly seems like Joe Peak is with our winner.
We've got Danny Dashelski here in the winner's circle. Danny, it feels like maybe it's been a bit here in Sprint Challenge since we've seen you in this place. Is it a relief to finally have this in 26?
Yeah, it's great back over here. You know, we've had the pace to do it. You know, I've just not been quite able to put it together. So for Top Racing to give me a really great car, and I was able to manage the restarts really well, and it just worked out perfectly.
Those restarts, because certainly seemed like there was a lot of yellow out there. Was that nerve-wracking at all, or did you feel in control?
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but after the first start and I saw that I was able to control the field pretty well, it made everything a lot more relaxing. So those next 2 restarts were just making sure I had control in a T1, and then after that I could just drive away.
Well, congratulations. Here's to many more wins.
Thank you.
All right, let's head back to Joey. We'll get to Mark Bowden in just a second.
Mark Bowden, of course, was our Masters class winner, also finishing inside the top 10. And Danny Dashelski had plenty of confidence there talking with Joe Peak. So he is happy to be back onto that top step. And now they are going to wander over and find that Fall Line Motorsports number 246 car and see if they can have a word with Mark Bowden. After all, we were highlighting that championship points situation. It really was between Mark and Elaine Scalzo coming into this race. Unfortunately for the 222, we saw the incident. He was able to drive through the gravel, but it buried him down into, I believe, 10th place in class. So the championship now swings much more in favor for Fall Line Motorsports and Mark Bowden. So I'm very curious to see if he is aware of that. And as it sounds like, Joe Peak is standing by with Mark Bowden.
We have our winner, Mark Bowden, here in the Masters class. You just told me it's good to be seen. We didn't actually get to see your initial pass on Joel Johnson on the lap 1. How did that happen?
That happened in turn 1. He got pushed a little wide. It opened the door, and I was able to get by. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened with him, but he rear-ended me going into 12 pretty good. I was able to keep it straight. And then all of a sudden I'm going, oh my God, I got P2 at the points right behind me. And that was a big movie made. And it's fortunate that nothing more came of it, but it was a good win for us. We've been fast all weekend. The 4-line Porsche has been great. The Yokohama tires are awesome. And we love racing in Sprint Challenge, so looking forward to tomorrow.
We saw a little bit of contact between you and Johnson down in Canada Corner. Did you feel that at all?
Oh, yes. Quite a bit. I was a little worried, and, the exhaust tips kept bent in, and my exhaust is pretty far bent in, so that's not optimal.
Well, it wound up in a win anyways. Congratulations, and look forward to seeing you on the podium.
Thank you.
That was our winner, Mark Bowden. We're going to go to our podium celebrations, but stick around because we have more action coming tomorrow here at Porsche Sprint Challenge at Road America.